Hello and thank you for joining me here at Why the Book Wins. My name is Laura and this is Cookie. She has been featured on a few different videos and she decided to join me here today for this one. Although not actually, because I'm going to be putting her down. But anyway, she just went to the groomer, so she's looking very cute and pretty. So I thought I would show her off. But I'm going to go ahead and put her down now. But say bye, Cookie. But today's video is all about why the movie wins, because the other week I did a video where I reacted to movies that you said were better than the book. And then today's video, I'm going to be sharing movies that I think are better than the book and explain a little bit as to why I think that. And I've been doing these book versus movie comparisons at Why the Book Wins for almost 2 years now. So as of right now, I have done 80 episodes and I tallied them up to see how many times the movie won. And it was 24 times. So 24 out of those 80 episodes, which comes out to like 30% of the time, which honestly was less than I thought. I thought it was going to be more, like I thought it would be 40% for sure, if not like maybe even close to 50. So I don't know why I thought that, because it's only 30% of the time. But anyway, so I guess my name still fits Why the Book Wins, since the book does win 70% of the time. But anyway, today is not about the books, it is about the movies and why they are better than these books. And even though I have 24 different options that are better than the book, I'm only going to be talking about 10, maybe 11 different ones. And again, all of these are ones that I have episodes for. So if there's any on here that you want to hear more about, you can check out my book versus movie episode for any number of these. And I'm going to be starting with a classic, and that is Cool Hand Luke, which most people have heard of this movie. It of course stars Paul Newman as a guy who is sent to a work camp where they work on the side of the road and things, and his fellow inmates look up to him and idolize him because he fights back, fights the system, and so they really idolize him, and he is a symbol of hope for these inmates. And so I covered this one over a year ago now, but the book was it kind of dragged, and I remember specifically the beginning took too much time setting things up rather than just getting into the meat of the story. Like, he took forever just describing things. Yeah, and just in general, it was a bit too slow for me. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have finished it had I not been reading it for a book versus movie. And the book and movie are very similar, but it just works better as a film, and the film doesn't drag at all, whereas the book did, like I said. So this is one where honestly, I wouldn't recommend the book at all, and I say just stick with the movie. And it's Paul Newman, which I am a huge sucker for Paul Newman, and he is in the next one I'm talking about, and that is The Hustler. And this also stars George C. Scott, Piper Laurie, and the guy who plays Minnesota Fats. He was a comedian, but then he plays a serious role in this. Anyway, I can't think of his name, but amazing cast, amazing performances, which is a big reason why the movie is better with this, because the performances are just so incredible. And the book is by Walter Tevis, and this was the first book he ever wrote. He later wrote The Queen's Gambit, which of course was turned into a super popular Netflix show. But I'm curious to read some of his later books, which I want to read The Queen's Gambit, I just haven't gotten around to it. But anyway, this book, it was fine, but it just lacked the emotion that is in the movie. And this is about Eddie Felson, who wants to become the best pool player in the country, and so he wants to play Minnesota Fats. And then George C. Scott plays this new agent that he hires to help him prepare to be Minnesota Fats. And so the relationship he has with George C. Scott is very similar from book to movie, but then it's just heightened in the film with the performances, I think. And it's also heightened because while this is happening, he is also dating this woman named Sarah, who is an alcoholic, and their relationship has some huge changes from book to movie. And because of that, the movie is just so much more powerful, and Eddie's character arc is much more dramatic in the film. And Paul Newman has some incredible monologues, George C. Scott, everybody just has incredible scenes, and it is just one of my all-time favorite movies. I covered this with my dad, and I think he said he bumped it up to his #1 favorite movie, so it's a fantastic one. And honestly, this is another where I just would say the book isn't even worth reading. Just stick to the movie. And then next up is the movie Catch Me If You Can. This is the story of a con artist who pretends to be an airline pilot, he pretends to be a lawyer, he pretends to be a professor, he pretends to be a doctor. He gets away with all these insane cons. He also writes fake checks, and he's constantly picking up women. That's part of the thing too, which that's one of my complaints about the book, is it was ghostwritten. For one, it's a true story, but it was written by a ghostwriter. And he makes Frank Abagnale Jr. come off as just so cocky, and so it just got annoying, especially as he brags about all the beautiful women he was constantly sleeping with, so that got old pretty quick. But also, the movie adds this more depth to Frank Abagnale Jr. because of the fact that his parents get divorced, and that's in book and movie, but it was more impactful in the movie and how he spends his life wanting to be part of a family again. And he finds that with Amy Adams and her family, but then he has to go on the run. And the movie also focuses on the relationship he has with the FBI agent played by Tom Hanks. And so I love that too, like this bond that they have and how they're both lonely. In the book, we don't really get anything from the FBI agent. Despite my complaints about the book, and even though I think the movie wins, I would still recommend the book to those who like the movie because there are some changes and you do learn more about him in the book. And so I did find it interesting. I just think the movie was more emotional, I would say. And I mean, I don't love when they make changes to a true story, but I'll let it pass on this one because the changes they made just made you feel for the main character so much more and just more depth. But again, I did enjoy the book. So if you want to learn about the specific differences from book to movie, you can check out that episode. And then I'm following this up with yet another Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and that is The Revenant. And so this is one that is based on the story of Hugh Glass, who was a real person, but the book is fictional, but it's based in truth. And then the movie strays even further from the truth in some ways because they add his son, who was not in the book, is not in real life. But in the movie, he has a son. And I don't know if it's a spoiler to say what happens to his son. The movie came out in 2015, so it's been a little while now. But anyway, they just made some changes to the film that made the story so much more emotional. And there are some dream sequences that were just so powerful. And the cinematography, the acting, it is just so beautiful and incredible. I saw this multiple times in theaters and it just was a fantastic experience and just so powerful. That's the best way to describe it. And you also have Tom Hardy, who plays the antagonist Fitzgerald, and he is fantastic as well. And so this movie was just so well done. I can't recommend it enough. It is one of my top favorite movies. And yeah, the book was good and I would recommend it if you like the movie. I think you should check out the book, but the end scene is very anticlimactic in the book. And then again, he doesn't have a son, so that definitely changes things as well. And yeah, you just don't get the visuals that you get in the movie. Also, so Hugh Glass is left for dead, and so it's about how he survives to get revenge on the man who left him for dead. But in the book, it describes how he sets these traps and how he does there's this or that to survive, which I didn't find too interesting to read about. But then when I saw it play out on screen, it just worked better for me and I was interested, whereas in the book I'd been bored by those descriptions. So yeah, anyway, fantastic movie. Love this so much. The book was good, but the movie wins. And then we have Matchstick Men, which is another fantastic movie. It is Nicolas Cage, Sam Rockwell, and Alison Lohman. It is, again, about con artists. So I do love movies about con artists. And this one is very similar to the book. Like the big con that's pulled achieves the same thing in book and movie, but the way they do it is different from book and movie in some aspects. And then the very end of book and movie is different because the movie actually has a happier ending, which I liked. Usually I don't like when Hollywood has to make things happier, but with that one, I just thought the very end was just very sweet and I loved it. And you got Nicolas Cage and Sam Rockwell and Alison Lohman, and I love all three of them. And Sam Rockwell just makes his character more fun and entertaining and more charismatic, but also not the most likable guy at times. And then Nicolas Cage just has some of his iconic just acting where he's just, getting stressed out and over the top, and his character has OCD, and so that's, which maybe if people actually have OCD, they would find it offensive. I'm not sure. But anyway, very entertaining, very fun, very heartwarming. The movie is more heartwarming than the book is. But again, this is a book where I wouldn't not recommend it. I did enjoy it, but the movie wins. And also I saw the movie first too, so there is like a reveal at the end. And if you experience that reveal in the book first, maybe you would like the book better. But because I experienced that reveal in the movie, it kind of makes me biased towards the movie. And then next up is a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and that is There Will Be Blood, which is loosely based on the book Oil by Upton Sinclair. So to be fair, this is very loosely based. Oil is a pretty lengthy book, but the movie is only based on like the first 150 pages of the book. The book is about the son of a rich oil person, and the first half of the book is about these oil rigs and then this like priest that is on this land, this young priest. But then the second half of the book kind of strays from that, and it turns to like a book about communism and socialism because the main character is struggling because he believes in communism, but then he's the son of a rich oil businessman. And so just the conflict within this main character. Whereas the movie doesn't focus on the son, the movie focuses on the dad who owns these oil rigs. And he's of course played by Daniel Day-Lewis, who is fantastic. And the movie also focuses more on this young preacher who is played by Paul Dano, who is incredible in this movie. And so just the feud they have that lasts for years, and just Daniel Plainview and his descent into madness in some ways. But yeah, this movie is fantastic. Again, this is another one of my just very favorite movies. It's pretty lengthy. It's like over 2.5 hours, I think, but it flies by. The performances are incredible. And again, the book, like they changed a lot. So it almost seems like it's not fair to mention this one because it's so loosely based on the book. But yeah, the book follows the son and he has a good relationship with his dad. So big difference right there. And he doesn't go deaf the way he does in the movie. But yeah, the second half, again, is just him. You know, Upton Sinclair was a communist or a socialist. He was one of those things. And so the book is very heavy on talking about different communist ideas, which was interesting. But the movie just, you know, doesn't focus on that at all. And it's about Daniel Plainview. Anyway, highly recommend this movie. So fantastic. I think it should have won over No Country for Old Men at the 2008-2009 Oscars, but anyway. And the next one I want to talk about is Lion, which is based on the memoir A Long Way Home by Saru Brearley. And this is a true story about a guy who was born in India, and then he is lost. He gets on a train, and when he's very young, and he goes to a big city, I don't remember what city it was now, but anyway, he goes to a huge city in India, which of course India is hugely populated, and so he becomes just one of the many orphan boys in this city. He ends up being adopted. Long story short, he moves to Australia, and then when he's an adult, he decides he wants to try and track down his birth family, which is very hard to do because he went missing when he was so young, and he doesn't even know for sure the name of the city he was in because it was like not even much of a city because it was so small. But anyway, fantastic story. So wonderful. I loved it. But the reason I like the movie even better, which honestly I'm realizing a theme, like with all of these, I like the movie better because they were just more emotionally impactful and made me feel more. I want a book or a movie to make me feel things, and the movie was just much more emotional. Like Saru Brearley, when he wrote about it in the book, he got emotional, but not too much, whereas the movie, you just like feel the emotion of this story. And it's such an incredible story too. Again, this has Dev Patel, who I absolutely love, and he's amazing in this. And then you have Nicole Kidman, who plays the Australian mom. Yeah, this is a beautifully shot film. And the boy who plays young Saru Brearley, his name was Sonny. I forget his last name, but his first name was Sonny. And he's in the first hour of the film. And so that's impressive that they put the weight of this movie on his shoulders for the first hour, because Dev Patel doesn't come into the movie until like the second half as the adult Saru. But the young kid who plays young Saru, he was amazing. So it works. Like he's able to carry that film for the first half because he was just so adorable for one. And he was a great actor. So yeah, I love this movie so much. Highly recommend. Not very many people talk about it. Like it was up for a lot of different awards, but it's not one you hear much about. And I loved it. Definitely check it out. Very heartwarming and emotional and powerful and all of those things that I love. Which I'm not the best movie reviewer or book reviewer, which maybe you're wondering why I have a booktube channel or a book versus movie channel if I don't think I'm good at reviewing things. But anyway, I feel like I'm just repeating the same words for each of these. So I apologize if this is feeling repetitive. But anyway, moving on. Next up is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So this one is by Hunter S. Thompson, the book. And the movie stars Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. And the book and movie are very similar. It is a very faithful adaptation. And honestly, I don't love either one, but I'm including it on this list anyway because I do think the movie is better. I think the comedy of the book plays out better when you see it on screen being portrayed by Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, and you also get the trippiness, which is described well in the book because this is about a journalist who goes to Las Vegas to cover these different stories, and he and his lawyer are just doing all these drugs while they're there. So the book is very trippy, but the movie does a good job at bringing that trippiness to life, I guess. And again, I don't love either one. And some of the scenes that are supposed to be funny, I feel like haven't aged well. And so Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this because, as I say in my book first movie episode, I used to love this book and movie. And so now, over 10 years later, maybe less than 10 years. Anyway, I just have a very different view of it. However, I will say the movie, you get great performances. Visually, it's amazing. It is funnier. There's a lot of different cameos. And so I definitely prefer the movie over the book. I don't think I would ever read the book again, but I could see myself still potentially watching the movie again, even though I don't love it. And then next up, we have The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and the movie stars Viggo Mortensen and Cody Smith McPhee, who I love. But anyway, this one, I like the movie better, which might be a little controversial. I mean, people love the movie, but I think in most cases, people prefer the book. However, I felt more connected to the man and his son in the movie than I did in the book. The man in the movie, he's just shows more emotion, and so I therefore found him more human, I guess. But in the book, like I say in my book first movie, like I get why he doesn't show emotion because it's the world they live in, because this is a post-apocalyptic story. But yeah, ultimately, I just felt more connected to the man and the boy in the movie, and so I therefore like the movie more. And then I want to talk about The Green Knight, which came out last year. This is a Dev Patel movie. He plays Gawain, who is on a quest to meet the Green Knight to finish this challenge that he had accepted by the Green Knight. And this is based on a poem. And this, again, I would recommend the poem. I did like it. But the movie definitely changes a lot. However, I'm totally fine with the changes that they made, and I love the symbolism of the movie and the mysticalness of it, which the story itself has that mystical feel too. But I feel like the movie just took it up a notch, and it was creepier and more mystical than I had expected. And again, you get great performances. The cinematography is incredible. It's just very visually pleasing and just beautiful. And it's weird and it makes you think. And I love that. And the character arc of Gawain is just incredible. And the final scene of the movie, like there's this whole 15-minute segment at the end of the movie, which is fantastic. And then the very last scene is just so powerful, and just throughout the whole story. Yeah, I just love this one so much. And then as he's on his quest to see the Green Knight, each of the challenges he faces represent like the pillars of what it means to be a knight, which I go into this in my book first movie episode. But it is one, I think, to fully appreciate the movie, you do have to do some research. But that's also something I like about it is, you have to do some work to fully appreciate the movie. But when I saw it for the first time, I had not yet read the poem. And even though there were things that I wasn't quite understanding until I did research and until I read the poem, I still loved the movie, and it was just a fantastic theater experience and one of my favorite movies of last year. Highly recommend. I can't believe it did not get nominated for a single Oscar. Like, that seems insane to me. But anyway, just so well done in every single way. But this is clearly, like this and The Revenant are two movies I think of where when you're watching it, you can tell it was made by people who are just like, they're doing it out of love for the craft and love for the art, and they're just so dedicated to it, and they're not doing it not to hate on Marvel movies or DC, but they're not making like some big budget blockbuster that they're expecting to make a lot of money off of. Like, you can tell they're making it because they just love what they do and the passion from everybody involved. Same with There Will Be Blood too, like movies like that where you can just feel the passion these people have for what they do and for the art they create. So anyway, that's The Green Knight, so I love that one. I forget how many I've done now, but I'm going to toss one more in there, and this is one I did recently, and that is Holes, which is the children's book which was adapted into the movie with Sigourney Weaver, Shia LaBeouf, Jon Voight, Henry Winkler as a scene. And this one, the book and movie, again, are very similar, so you're basically getting the same story from book and movie. But with the movie, you just get to see it played out by these amazing actors. Everybody is so well cast, and also just nostalgia reasons because I love this movie when I was younger. And I think it's aged really well. So watching it as an adult, I still really enjoy it. Whereas the book is good, but when it comes to my enjoyment level, I got more enjoyment from the movie than I did from the book. But again, I would still recommend this book, especially if you have kids who are too young and haven't seen the movie because they weren't around when it came out. I think they should read the book. So it has a lot of important life lessons in there for a young child to be reading about. And yeah, that wraps it up on movies that I think are better than the book, why the movie wins. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and to like this video, and comment down below if you agree with my opinions on these movies or not. Comment down below as well if there's any of these that you didn't even realize were based on a book. And yeah, follow me on Instagram, subscribe, leave my podcast a rating and review, all of that stuff that I'm always asking for. But anyway, thank you again so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.